The unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of eons. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold it, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. Store of precious virtues, discourse, practice of the highest understanding. Prajñaparamita Ratnaguna Samcaya Gāthā Taishō 229. Bodhisattvas, who in this life endeavor to remove all obstacles and afflictions, giving rise to a peaceful mind with confidence, dwelling in awakened calm, rely on the practice of the highest understanding. All the rivers on Roseapple Island, producing the healing herbs, fresh fruits, and flowers, derive their power from the Naga king, who dwells in the cool Manasarowara lake. If all the hearer disciples of the Buddha use skillful means to teach the Dharma, help people experience joy, taste the fruit of happiness, and practice the holy life, it is due to the sacred power of the Tathagata. The Buddha transmits the eyes of the Dharma. Their disciples, training according to it, practice, realize, and teach it to others. All that is due to the power and strength of the Buddha. The incomparable understanding is not to be grasped. It is not an object of realization. There is no awakening. Someone who hears this without feeling terror is a bodhisattva who has the capacity to understand the Buddha. Form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness are all empty. The bodhisattva is not the least bit caught in anything. They do not settle or abide in any dharma, and realizes the unattainable awakened mind. When the bodhisattva would leave the shelter of afflictions and shine their insight on the five aggregates, they see they are without true nature. They do not seek the peace of nirvana, that is to realize the wisdom of a bodhisattva. What is the object realized by this understanding? It is to shine the light of insight and see that all is empty. With this insight, there is no longer any terror. The bodhisattva awakens themselves and others. Treating the five aggregates as real is not to understand their true nature. The bodhisattva sees the aggregates as empty and practices without being caught in the form and in the word. The five aggregates are empty because they do not get caught in the form. Their practice is called signless. Where there is practice, there is not the highest understanding. There is no thing that can be called concentration, signlessness, and nirvana. If they can practice this silent awakening, all the Buddhas of the past empower them. They know the true nature of causes and conditions. Neither suffering nor delight can touch them. If they practice with no object of their practice, they practice in accord with the wisdom of the Sugata. If they practice with the spirit of non-practice, this is the highest understanding. The practice without object cannot be grasped. Foolish people are caught in the signs of being and non-being. Neither being nor non-being can express the truth. The bodhisattva of awakened understanding transcends both. The bodhisattva free of signs knows that the five aggregates are a magic show. Their practice is silent awakening, which is the practice of the highest understanding. Taught by good teachers and spiritual friends, there is no fear of hearing the mother of all Buddhas' discourses. But with deluded teachers and friends, traveling the wrong path, they are like a clay pot that has not been fired. Whom do we call a bodhisattva? They who are no longer caught by sensual desire. They who aspires to the fruit of awakening without being caught by it is thus called a bodhisattva. Whom do we call a mahasattva? They who have comprehended the absolute truth and cuts through all wrong views in the world. They are thus called a mahasattva, a great being, with great generosity, great wisdom, and virtuous power. They sit aboard the highest vehicle of the Buddhas and give rise to the awakened mind to save all beings. Thus they are called a great being, like a magician at the crossroads, giving rise to an illusory crowd and cutting off their heads. All worlds are just as illusory. Knowing this, they feel no fear. The five aggregates are ropes that bind. Knowing they are not real, they need no more dwelling. They practice with their awakened mind not caught in anything. That is why they are called the highest bodhisattva. Whom do we call a bodhisattva? The one who rides on the great vehicle to rescue all beings. The great vehicle is as vast as space. All beings can ride on it in joy and safety. The great vehicle cannot be grasped by ideas. It goes to nirvana, but nirvana is everywhere. We cannot recognize the destination. It is like a fire gone out. That is why it is said, he enters nirvana. The object of their practice cannot be grasped. It cannot be found in the three times. It is silence of ideas, fearless and beyond speculation. It is the practice of the highest understanding. When a bodhisattva engages in the practice of the highest understanding and gives rise to great love and compassion to help beings, never do they think in terms of living beings. This is the highest understanding in action. When a bodhisattva gives rise to the notion living beings and practices austerities, caught in the sign suffering. They are caught in the signs self and living being. This is not the highest understanding in action. When they know clearly their own nature and that of other living beings, and knows that all dharmas are of the same nature, that birth and death are not in opposition, but are not distinguishable from birthless and deathless. It is the highest understanding in action. Abandoning all names and words, abandoning all things that are born and die in the world, there is the nectar of deathless and incomparable wisdom. This is the highest understanding in action. When the bodhisattva practices like this and knows which skillful means to use, does not pursue anything, and knows that these means have no separate existence, this is the practice of the highest understanding. If they do not rely on form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness, and only relies on the perfect teachings, this is the practice of the highest understanding. Permanent and impermanent, suffering and joy, self and selfless, are all empty. They do not abide in a world of conditioned or unconditioned elements. Like the Buddha, they abide in the practice of signlessness. If you aspire to attain the career of a hearer, the self-enlightened one, or Buddha enlightenment, if you do not have endurance of the above practice, you cannot arrive. It is like crossing the great river. You cannot see the other shore. If you hear these teachings and are determined to realize the highest awakening, witness the awakened mind, and see that the nature of all things is your own nature. That is the great wisdom the Tripiṭaka is describing. A bodhisattva who practices great wisdom this way does not train in the way of a hearer or a self-awakened Buddha. They train only in the boundless knowledge of the Tripiṭaka. True learning is the learning of no learning. They train in the non-increase and non-decrease of forms. They do not train in any other way. Their only joy is to train according to boundless knowledge. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. Form is neither wisdom nor the absence of wisdom. Feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness are also like that. The nature of form is like empty space, equality, non-duality, and non-discrimination. The basic nature of wrong perception is without limits, as is the basic nature of all living beings. The nature of space is without obstructions. So is the wisdom of the one who perfectly understands the worlds. The Buddha said that wisdom is not form. When clinging to perceptions is released, nirvana is there. Whoever has given up clinging to perceptions, their mind and speech are said to dwell in suchness. For as many lifetimes as there are grains of sand in the Ganges, they will not hear the Buddha utter the words, living beings. Living beings are birthless, pure, and silent from the very beginning. This is the practice of the highest understanding. Since every word I have ever uttered contains the meaning of the highest understanding, the last Buddha transmitted to me the prediction that I would awaken in this very life. The actions of one who receives and practices this understanding are not less than that of the Buddha. Swords, poison, fire, and water, and all the efforts of Mara will not touch them.
May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separate from the sacred happiness that is free of sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free of attachment and aversion.
Thank you.